This is Earth. There's Venus, Mercury, and the Sun. Now, even though Mercury is twice as close to the Sun as Venus, Venus is the hotter planet. Why? Carbon dioxide, aka CO2. Venus's atmosphere is full of CO2, and the greenhouse effect has run amok. Since the Industrial Revolution, Earth's CO2 levels have been increasing sharply, and now we too are heating up. Granted, Earth's been hotter before and colder, but it's been about the same temperature for the last 10,000 years, which includes all of modern human achievement, like farming, pinatas, and frequent flyer miles. Climate change is happening. Is it fixable? What are the solutions? Who's working on this?
There are truly problems that we can't solve. We don't yet have the cure to cancer. We don't yet have the cure for Alzheimer's. We don't yet have the cure for Parkinson's disease. This problem we can solve, and there's no good reason not to, and so much is at stake.
Unchecked, global warming threatens to drive into extinction 1 out of every 2 creatures on the face of the Earth.
The Arctic could literally disappear in 10 years' time.
We're going to see serious disruption of agriculture.
Huge sea level rises.
Millions fleeing to higher ground.
More extreme storm events.
Wildfires.
More periods of drought.
Ethnic conflicts.
Potential decline and collapse of civilization.
I've heard enough. I'm convinced. I don't need to hear any more about we're all doomed. We know it's a big task, but it's also a fantastic and huge opportunity.
The U.S. has about 5% of the world's people, but we create almost a quarter of the world's CO2. CO2 is not the only greenhouse gas, it's just the one making the most trouble right now. A lot of people worry about climate change, but a third of Americans don't think humans are the cause. We agree with the 84% of scientists, groups of faith like the Evangelical Climate Initiative, many Fortune 500 companies, and the Pentagon. That's right, the Department of Defense. These groups know humans are the cause, and that this is a big, big problem. Figuring out whether tackling climate change is possible is the big question. To get the job done, we'd better find people who are giving it the good fight, and hope the next generation is up to the task. There is a big stumbling block. Today, there's no cost for emitting CO2. No penalty for the downside of carbon-based energy. And that makes it hard to move people to clean energy. Now back to those scientists. It's important to note that many times they've been wrong with their climate models. Global warming is happening much faster than any of them predicted. And that woke us up. So we hit the road, hunting, hoping for solutions. Our first stop? Wind. Wind is a renewable resource. It also renews lives. In Pennsylvania's rejuvenated Rust Belt, laid-off steelworkers are now hired to make turbines. And down in West Texas, wind is turning dirt into gold.
Are you getting lots of wind noise here? That's supposed to be, that's supposed to fit right in the picture, wind noise and on the wind farm.
Cliff saw wind turbines popping up all around his cotton farm and decided to get a piece of the action before it blew away.
All of the developers that I approached initially were accustomed to doing business in the large ranches. Lots of land, 1 or 2 owners.
My father felt that if you look around the area around here, most of the land is owned by small family farmers. And the last 20 or 30 years have been difficult for family farmers. And that was the primary reason why he became interested in trying to get a wind development project.
We had lots of owners and lots of small tracts of land, and there was a natural resistance to doing all that contract stuff. But once I was able to convince the developers that the actual construction cost on this wonderful flat farmland with county roads everywhere would be an absolute minimum, then they began to take notice and was able to make this happen. You might could say I did it all single-handedly, see. I got caught in a cotton stripper in 1972. I was 30 years old. It really wasn't such a traumatic situation for me. I just decided that I was going to take it on as a challenge, and worked out okay. I've been very fortunate. I think that global warming is readily accepted, and most farmers are good stewards of the land, and they're wanting to see something done about it and contribute to it. Look at that. Got something?
Before the turbines, things were bleak in Roscoe.
When I graduated from high school, I mean, most of the people that grew up here, they couldn't wait to get out of town and go to the big city. Not because they didn't love this area, but mainly because there were so few opportunities.
For Roscoe, I guess we bottomed out when we lost our Dairy Queen.
Oh yeah, that's the kiss of death for a small town. When your Dairy Queen closes down, you're on your last leg.
But about that time, our wind industry came along, and it's been a fantastic, unbelievable boom to Roscoe.
Roscoe's got what will end up being, for a little while at least, the largest wind farm in the world, and there are 400 landowners in this area that are sharing in the benefit of that project.
The landowners get paid on the actual amount of electricity generated. Their payment is a straight royalty, and this is the only time they've ever had a chance to receive a steady income.
Once it's completed, Cliffs Wind Farm will power 250,000 homes, and the farmers are raking in up to $15,000 per turbine per year, leasing their land, which is still usable for farming and ranching.
The thing that's really cool, you talk to a lot of the families that raised kids here, and you find out that a large percentage of them have children moving back to this area because of the wind industry.
Vicki Haynes really benefited from this wind farm. I hope you'll include her. She's a lot better looking than I am.
This is our daughter and our little grandson that it brought home, and my son-in-law and our little grandson. So Dan's the one working with the wind turbines, and it's just been a blessing.
Farmers really do appreciate these things. This is strictly dry land. We sit here and pray for rain and cuss the wind. Now what we've been cussing all these years turned out to be a blessing.
It's clear wind power reduces cussing in West Texas, but in many other states, people don't like wind turbines or the transmission lines they'll need. That's too bad, because the U.S. Department of Energy says wind from Texas, North and South Dakota, Kansas, and Montana has more power potential than all the electricity needed in the U.S. If you look at wind's power potential worldwide, it has the capacity to produce trillions of watts, otherwise known as terawatts. All day, every day, humans are now using energy at a rate of 16 terawatts, and this runs everything: cars, skyscrapers, ships, smelters, crock pots, everything. With electricity, fuels, cow dung, you name it. A terawatt is 1 trillion watts. 100 watts powers a 100-watt light bulb. A kilowatt is 1,000 watts. An average American household consumes 28 kilowatts of the terawatt pie. 1 billion watts is a gigawatt. Seattle or San Francisco eat up at least a gigawatt of power. 1,000 gigawatts is a terawatt. And as soon as possible, we need all 16 of those terawatts to come from clean, climate-safe sources. We now power less than 2 terawatts that way. Getting to 16 terawatts will be a tough task. Let's say 2 terawatts will be made from wind power. We'd have to build and install 1 large wind turbine every 5 minutes for the next 25 years. Is that even possible? At its peak, General Motors could make 6 new cars every minute, and many car factories sit idle. Let's retool and build wind turbines. And check this out. Every day, 86,000 terawatts hit the Earth as solar power. Over 32 terawatts are pumping from geothermal power. And 870 terawatts of wind power are blowing around the globe right now. We only need 16. Although wind turbines are sprouting like mushrooms across the west, coal plants are popping up even faster in the east.
In the next 8 years in China, they're going to build 800,000 megawatts of new coal plants. That's 2.5 times more plants than we have installed in the U.S. today.
Although we are now neck and neck with the Chinese as to who is the biggest polluter, we should realize that in terms of what's heating the Earth, what's up there now, it's 80 or 85% Western pollution.
Now, the first challenge we in the West have is not to be smug. We have no right to say we should wait until they do something for us to do something. That's just wrong.
Point number 2 is it is in our economic self-interest, because if we don't get going, all the other countries are going to get going.
There's no question that these technologies are going to grow very quickly. The question is who's going to get the business. We've already seen that U.S. has lost the solar business. Solar energy was basically commercialized in the United States. Now the biggest solar companies are in Japan and Germany. The biggest wind turbine companies, again, we created that industry, are in Denmark and Germany.
If we don't get off the dime and start moving aggressively ahead to become the leaders in this vast, vibrant, new renewable energy field, China is likely to be there well ahead of us. Their automobile fuel efficiency standards are tougher than ours are, and they've got 6 of the most vibrant, fast-growing solar photovoltaic electric companies in the world.
What we need to be worried about is whether or not we're keeping up with them.
My approach is to make America the country that gets respected, rich, secure, entrepreneurial, and competitive by leading the world in clean power and energy efficiency, the next great global industry.
The good thing about the green economy, the clean energy economy, the low carbon economy, it's a labor-intensive economy. It will create an infinite amount of jobs.
This is geostrategic, geoeconomic. It's the most patriotic thing you can be, do, think, or feel today. Green baby is the new red, white, and blue.
Climate change is, in fact, a national security issue. We need to change how we think about this. This is no longer the purview of Birkenstock-wearing tree huggers. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Climate change is posing risks around the world. From the increasing risk of extreme weather events to sea level rise.
As deltas get flooded worldwide, and there are a lot of very highly populated deltas, you can think Mississippi, you can think Ganges, you can think Nile. Those people are going to have to move. The world is not ready to accept all those refugees, so there are going to be a lot of wars or nearly wars.
And should they occur in some parts of the world where the United States has very significant presence and interest, you'll have a security problem that affects the United States.
But there are closer in, more critical elements that affect security.
Fundamentally, we all understand we've got to get off our dependency on foreign oil.
The nations in the Middle East are more important now because of our desire